We won't. Can you hear me? We have a bit of a problem here because we can't hear your voice well. We're going to try and connect better, but would it be all right to listen to you and see you, but without screen sharing? Because we're not able to get the whole message. If we try with this methodology, otherwise we can only hear your voice. So please don't share the screen. I won't share the screen. So hello, everybody. What I would like to share with you this morning is an interesting experience on the work of opening a museum in a Carmelite monastery. As I said before, that dates back to 1710 and has been declared a national monument of the first order by the Peruvian state. So it's very much protected specifically by the state, and therefore also protected and recognized by UNESCO because it's in the historical center of Arequipa that's been declared a cultural good of humanity. So there are a whole heap of limits to making changes and also to the use of the monastery, but and engaging the enclosed Carmelite community. The museum started after a difficult time because in 2001 there was a very powerful earthquake in Arequipa and many historical monuments were destroyed. People died. Because Arequipa is an active fault line, and so many historical buildings were seriously damaged or collapsed, and the vault of the church, a tower of the church, a bell tower, fell too. So if you're able to see the images, you'll be able to see how dreadful this earthquake was, because there was so much destruction. But on the other hand, it represented, as I was saying before, a new start, a start to works, as has been done at St. Teresa's. An Italian institute worked with us to safeguard these endangered cultural assets. People came from Chile too. A group of restorers from Arequipa, together with two restorers from Chile, organized together with people from other museums that had been damaged. So we worked for 10 days and we managed to rescue and gather together thousands of objects, a great many objects, paintings, sculptures, books, furniture. When I say saved, rescued, practically speaking, we took them away from spaces which could later have been fallen apart due to so while the buildings were being restored, we took away these goods. We also had contact with the monastery of Saint Teresa. As part of this rescue, we worked in the monastery of St. Teresa, where the Carmelite community actively helped. It was there that we were able to see the pieces of heritage of great artistic and cultural value, and we began to think about exhibiting them. The work was done. The sisters really helped us to save and find the sculptures that were in different places, and then to take them to more secure venues, sewer places. So the restorers, together with the sisters, we were able to get to know them, and they grew in their awareness of the understanding of the importance of all these objects, special, precious works by important authors, some unique works. So we were able to talk to the sisters, and we said that it was possible. We saw that it was possible to open part of the monastery, to create a room, to find a space so that there could be an exhibition of these objects. And so this idea was being talked about. I know that within the convent themselves they discussed it. So after this rescue operation was finished, the sisters called us, my wife and I, that they were happy to open part of their monastery, their convent, as a museum. And they commissioned us to start this project, the most important project we ever undertook in our life, because to establish a museum and to do a whole inventory work, we accepted the work. We were delighted to do it. And clearly the first thing we had to do was to make a genuine inventory, at least a list of all the pieces to see what we actually had. And together with the sisters and using those spaces, we were able to install and set up the rooms of the museum. The sisters, the convent dates back to the earlier centuries, and together with the sisters we saw what was the most important, most useful part in which to establish the museum: the cloister, the infirmary. And so in the cloister then we identified, in the monastery we identified where to have the museum, and then we continued the work of the inventory. The sisters helped with the inventory, they took turns, and so the inventory work became a new. The Mother Superior entrusted particular tasks to the sisters, and it was a wonderful opportunity for them to be with us doing this inventory work. So the first inventory was a very elementary list: the object, photographs, the material, the size, and we created a very simple file card for each one, so as to be able to engage the help of the sisters who didn't have knowledge of the history of art or conservation techniques, of the types of material. And so we used a very simple file card in order to create this inventory, doing this work of identifying the different pieces. We also did work of recognizing, identifying clearly the works, so as to have specific pieces, because of their artistic and historical importance, should be part of the permanent exhibition of the future museum. These key pieces were the basis of the museums, of the museum. So these are pieces that had come and date back to 1720. So this is a collection, is one of the there's more than 100, one of the largest in the whole of Latin America. So over 100 different pieces, and I really hope that you will be able to see it later in the pictures that I've got, to show the items in gold, silver, jewels, and also some items from Europe, and also from, and so there's also then sometimes there was the image of the person who had created that incision. So we were able to compare these works with other collections, and we were able to gather up these works. And on the basis of this very first selection, we were able to give the museum an aspect. We were able to build up thematic exhibitions in different subject areas through the selection of works and through the inventory that was made at the very start, this work took a whole year. When we had our selection of pieces ready, which could become part of the permanent collection exhibition, we then started this museum work, and therefore to plan every aspect of museum presentation, including lighting and the technical aspects. We obviously engaged experts to have a better outcome in which to see these works and conserve them properly. So it was a very precious work that we and the sisters did together so as to present these objects without taking any risks or endangering them in any way. We measured, for example, the lighting, possible polluting factors, even the financial aspects. The community understood very well that it had to make an investment, regular investment, but I believe that Saint Teresa is one of the only museums that had to take a loan from a friend who gave money and who was repaid in just a few years. It's important to emphasize this aspect. Initially, the funds were not sufficient, but then they preferred to take a loan so as to be able to continue this project, and this too was an interesting aspect.
So there was the work that we did. We prepared the script, and then we prepared everything. And then we started to send, to make the furniture, and then write the text, make the translations, all the translations of all the texts, because everything that we have is in Spanish, which is the language that we speak in Peru. But also we have them in English for all those visitors from abroad that might come by, because that's the most visitations. I mean, the highest amount of tourists that we get are English speakers. And then after 4 years of hard work in the year 2005, actually we did manage to open it to the public. And then, as I said, we managed to use our system, which is very interesting. We work two different ways. We have an administrative office that is taken care by the nuns with the help of an external staff person. And then because it's not that we always have people. So our books are not always. I mean, sometimes they're in the green. They're not always in the red, but it's an in between. We have ups and downs, and then we also have the other direction or the other work that we do is the recollection of things, which is I am in charge of. I get to take care of finding the pieces, the objects, and then to who has to restore them and how they are going to be cataloged and how they will be presented. And the museum develops and evolves in this direction because of this. And then we have all the different services. We have worship, restoration worship, where the collections of the museum are being taken care of. And we also have external collections that are brought to us from monasteries or churches or private collections. We've been sent pieces and artworks that we either conserve or restore in our workshop. And this is something that also gives some kind of income that helps to pay the bills of the museum. From the legal national perspective, the museum works based on an agreement that we have between the Peruvian state and the church that gives us total freedom to act to make our own decisions depending on our properties. We don't pay, for example, taxes on our properties. Ecclesial properties don't pay taxes to the Peruvian state, which actually would affect us very much and would make us even poorer than we are. Because thanks to this agreement, we managed to somehow live day by day. and our museum can survive. And also becoming part of the national heritage and the museum, it is one of those things listed, also gives us and grants us some kind of recognition and some kind of financing. So our arts, our pieces and our objects belong to the state, but in the end, this is a good collaboration that started in 2005 and has been going on since then. And this has given it has been of great importance for the national history of Peru, but also for international history. So thanks to these artifacts, and then we hope that we can also do a much more rational cataloging of the artworks, and also to find another way, maybe a platform where to showcase our objects. And then we also have guides in different languages that we can offer, such as French, Italian, Portuguese, so that people who come to us can also just go through the museum. And we also try for all the people who come to see the museum are led by a guide so that they truly understand what they are looking at. But then there are special cases whenever someone comes and doesn't want a guide, okay, then they can just read whatever has been placed in the different parts of the museum that is written in English and Spanish. But then also having a guide that leads the group somehow complies with the objective of the museum itself, that is to truly make people understand why this museum exists. Now, about the building is from 1710. So there are specific regulations for its conservation, and well, we had to keep the original architecture of the building in order to be able to expose our pieces and our objects. So, for example, all the windows and all the doors had that were replaced had to somehow respect specific regulations in order for the walls and for the structure of the building not to be affected. Everything had to be somehow preserved as it was. Nothing changed. And this way of also of placing all the different showcasing boxes and different the setups that we needed for the museum also follow the best practices of museums around the world. Another very important thing to be said is that due to the pandemic, the museum had to close down in March 2020, and it's still closed. And in May, which is the international is the World Day or the International Month of Museums. So what we're trying to do is to work with the sisters so that we can somehow reopen, because we have been granted permission to reopen, so that we can reopen and welcome our tourists and our visitors. Now, during these 2 years that we've been closed, what we've done is that we've tried to improve the museum and to bring the museum to people's houses, how with publications, with, for example, we have been writing about it in a local paper. We have been publishing pictures and virtual tours. So we had a recent catalog that was used. We've also been doing We've also been lending out some of our pieces for a specific period of time during these 2 years. Unfortunately, the connection is breaking. And he froze. It's really important to understand that the museum is known, and that's what we've tried to do during these 2 years. Another very interesting thing with regards to the way we are presenting our collections is that we have different levels. Unfortunately, he is gone.
Profesor Franz, interrumpa, quite la pantalla, la conexión de pantalla y le escucharemos seguramente.
So the sister is inviting him to turn off his camera so that we can only hear him, and that should make the trick.
No comparta pantalla, no comparta pantalla.
So she's repeating that. Just speak. Turn off your camera. Not properly.
No comparta la pantalla y hable. Únicamente siga hablando.
Listo, bueno, continúo hablando. Espero que que estén escuchándome. Bien, solamente ya para cerrar.
I'm concluding anyway. So as connection is really, really bad from here, unfortunately, I apologize for that. But then this example of this monastery of Saint Teresa is really important. This experience is also very important, mainly for the Carmelite community, because it has allowed them to go beyond their walls initially, and also going beyond their charism of isolation and to be, away from the world. Has been a way also to connect with the local community and the national and international community through the museum. In second place, this has allowed for the community for the religious community to interact with the people and to connect with them, and also to connect and relate on the grounds of the shared culture. And this has also allowed us to restore this historical building, this beautiful historical building. So I hope you can hear me. I've turned off my camera. I thank you for listening and for giving me this opportunity. And I apologize for the technical issues. And as I said, I will be sharing with you my written presentation so you can see it and you can also see the picture. So thank you very much.